BBC is facing another crisis today. It's been revealed that the Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, ahead of the BBC's 2028 charter renewal, plans to keep the licence fee at £174.50, but those on benefits will get it for free. Ms Nandy said this after the Green Paper was announced.
This Green Paper is about what sort of country we want to live in. Do we want to live in the sort of country where we have an institution that can protect and uphold trusted news, that can reach every corner of the country, that can help bring us together and understand one another, an institution that belongs to us all? Or do we want to go to a much darker place as the country? BBC is fundamental to the health of our nation, and we want to make sure that we put it on a firm footing for decades to come.
Did I really hear her say the BBC is fundamental to the health of our nation? Have we got to worship at the shrine of the BBC as well as that of the National Health Service? It goes from bad to worse. After months of embarrassment for the BBC and repeated failures to provide the impartial journalism taxpayers expect, new targeted concessions are being explored, possibly offering discounted or free licences for people on benefits, while working households could be asked to pay more tax to fund it. Taxpayers are already at risk of paying more for the BBC failures if they have to pay out to Trump.
Suing the BBC for putting words in my mouth, literally, they put words in my mouth. They had me saying things that I never said, so we'll be bringing that lawsuit. A lot of people are asking, when are you bringing that lawsuit? Even the media can't believe that one.
They put words in his mouth. If President Trump succeeds in suing the BBC for £7.4 billion, there's only one place the BBC can find the money: the taxpayer. When taxes have risen by £30 billion, working people who are already struggling with mortgages, rent and energy bills can now be asked to subsidise television viewing for shirkers. They're watching television so much rather than working. The government insists the licence fee, or BBC tax, is tried and tested, despite the fact that millions of households are now opting out. The number of people paying has fallen, so the burden increasingly falls on those who comply, largely middle-income, often older working families, many of whom may not watch the BBC much because they probably prefer GBNews. The government is pointing to international models like Germany, where benefit claimants can be exempted. Why should households that are working and paying taxes shoulder even more to make up for those who don't contribute? If they had less telly to watch, they might get out and do a job. Is this the latest sign of Britain becoming a nation on benefits? Last month's budget increased welfare spending by £12 billion, while taxes continue to rise. At the same time, programmes such as Strictly Come Dancing could be placed behind paywalls. Advertising could appear on the BBC for the first time in its history. Jolly good thing. And older content on the iPlayer may move into a subscription model like Netflix. These proposals, in and of themselves, are pretty good, I think, but they highlight the unavoidable fact that the licence fee is unnecessary, unfair and outdated. Millions of households refusing to pay, yet the proposals want to shift the burden to those working and paying while offering free access to those who idle at home. It's a punishment for following the rules. There's plenty of free media available. You don't need a licence to watch GBNews on YouTube after broadcast. Podcast radios, streaming platforms, free-to-air TV channels can all be watched as long as you don't watch them live or recordings of live television without a licence fee. So the BBC may once, some dim and distant date when the dinosaurs roamed the savannah, have been a noble national institution which served an important journalistic purpose. But today it's an embattled organisation after enduring so many scandals. Its standards have fallen and it doesn't deliver value for money. It should not be a legal obligation to fund it. It's a question about fairness and responsibility. Why should workers be asked to pay for shirkers? Moving to a system that reflects the realities of modern broadcasting would be far more sensible.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
As always, send in your messages. Let me know at mailmog@gbnews.com. Now I've got my most preternaturally perspicacious panel, Gwaine Toler and Kevin Craig. Well, come on, Mr. Perspicacious. This is too much, isn't it? That we've been hammered with tax rises. All the money's going to people on welfare. And now Lisa Nandy, who I always thought was one of the more sensible Labour ministers, is saying, let's give even more to people on benefits and take it from people who work and play by the rules.
Yeah, well, I have to say, Jacob, sometimes it's very difficult to listen to you ranting at the BBC. I don't know why you or many behind the scenes at this channel hate the national broadcaster so much, but £169.50 a year is the
£174.50.
Is it really?
Yes.
Where's that fiver gone?
Keeps on going up.
There's Labour cutting, you see, for people already. And the BBC, this is a consultation. You were fair. There are some elements of it that we all welcome, consideration of advertising revenue. I mean, the BBC generates billions a year of inward income for this country. The principle that we don't ask those on benefits who are already struggling to pay. There's a very high level of non-payment, which is not good. This is a principle that happens in Germany. And we also have the principle of, for example, of not asking pensioners to pay for it. This might be a logical next step.
That went, because the BBC refused to pay for the over 75s. So it fell on the BBC and they said, no, we'll make the over 75s pay unless they're on pension credits.
Right, so if they're on pension credits...
But not all pensioners.
Okay, but not all...
And over 75, not over 67.
Right, but I mean, millionaire pensioners don't need assistance, but some pensioners in poverty who are very lonely, would benefit from this. So I think it's a fair debate, but you're so aggressively anti-BBC, Jacob.
Can I suggest... You see, I think the BBC has been ruined by the licence fee. In 1990, it dominated the UK for sport, for drama and for news. It lost sport to Sky, drama to Netflix. It's just got news left. And this is because it had one set revenue and it couldn't diversify.
Fair point.
And I haven't only been saying this recently. I've been saying this for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think the licence fee has held the BBC back and therefore it's lost its excellence.
That's a very interesting argument because it lost sport and a lot of big events because of inability to compete with major platforms. And I think that's a very well-made point. But the actual licence fee being made not 100% chargeable to some low-income groups, I don't share your anger on that.
I'll tell you why I think that's so unfair, is that I think it's, dare I say, it's an odd thing for me to say, it's a very old-fashioned view of television that if you go back to 1980 and there was a licence fee and all you could watch was licence fee, that it was a lifeline for people. But now people can get all sorts of entertainment and news with video without watching something that makes them liable for a licence fee. It's not the cut-off that it would have been in previous times.
Yeah, well, I think the debate there is about the scale of what the BBC offers, which you may like or not like, but the scale of it that it offers to so many people, the reach, the international reach, is vastly different to an independently owned channel like this.
Well, let me bring you in, because the former, well, he may just be former, he's in and out Director General, laid down a challenge to people to say you couldn't go a fortnight without the BBC. I found this extremely easy to do. I deleted it as my go-to news outlet. I stopped listening to Radio 4 and listened to the Times Radio. We don't need the BBC in the way we used to.
Honestly, I think that the BBC became very complacent and very arrogant. It also, I think, and this is one of the good things about the BBC, but also one of the really bad things about the BBC when it comes to BBC News. Its domination of local news through the internet, through its BBC website, has killed local newspapers. And I think that is an appalling thing that's happened up and down the country, where local newspapers who used to go to court cases, used to follow things of this sort, the BBC, BBC Dorset or BBC Lincolnshire, they don't cover the nitty-gritty of local politics. And yet, because it's free for view, free for go on the website, it kills local newspapers. And I think that's a very bad thing for accountability, for democracy and things of this sort. I think actually
Can I say
it's
one
a
thing
disaster.
on that? It's not actually an argument, just a point is that I think you're right about local newspapers being in real decline. I think it could be as much to do with how young people consume their news.
That may be so, but it also is the fact that why pay for your local paper when you can get most of the news for free? And that has been a devastating thing. But however, another thing is, we're talking about the problems in the courts. 12% of Crown Court cases are non-payment of BBC licence. I don't think there should be any payment of BBC licence. There are other forms of payment and models of payment. And if we were worried about the way the courts are struck up, actually, stopping that would be a huge sign. And who gets charged? It may be not the 75-year-olds with means tested, but who gets charged? It's mostly women. It's mostly single women, and it's mostly women alone at home who are elderly.
We agree, actually.
Who get taken to court.
We agree on this, Grant. I think you make a great point.
So, honestly, the BBC may have been in its Ruthian principles and all the rest of it, and I enjoyed the Ruth lectures this year, but the BBC may have once been something magnificent. But there again, so is the civil service. It has passed its sell-by date. There are so many more things that people can watch, as Jacob was saying. And I don't think I'm quite so rampant in my opposition to the BBC. When people say the BBC is dreadful, it's like, hold on. Aspects of the BBC are dreadful. The BBC is so huge, there are good bits. There are excellent journalists. But the mood, the impression, the tone is largely in one direction.
Well, I can agree on that last point. I've just done an interview for the Westminster, our special edition in the new year, on restoration and renewal in the House of Commons, and that is...
There are some
superb people on it, and they make some excellent programmes.
But the establishment, the monolith.
But it's the structure of it that I object to. Anyway, we'll no doubt come back to this again, and we're very lucky he is still the Director General. Sorry, I thought he'd resigned, but never mind, you stay on in the BBC even when you've resigned. Mr. Timothy Davey said, "We welcome the publication of the government's Green Paper. At the BBC, we want change, so we can continue to deliver for the UK for generations to come. We want to secure a public service BBC that is independent, sustainably funded for the long term and meets our audience needs." I think that was written by AI.